Hi guys, hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend. Over the next week or so, we're going to be having a chat about the different kind of conditioning pieces that we get you to do to give you a little bit more of an understanding as to kind of why we use them, but also to help you make the most of each of those particular sessions. Okay, now obviously all the different conditioning types that we use have a different kind of focus. Obviously we're trying to create a different kind of stimulus, but also to expose you to different strategies that you might need to use within workouts, especially when it comes to competing, to make sure that you're getting the best possible score, all right? As well as obviously getting you comfortable with different formats of workout so that if they get thrown up, you're not caught by surprise, okay? So obviously you've got all the common styles of workouts like your EMOMs, your rounds for time, your AMRAPs, okay? But then also within that, there's different styles of those particular workouts that again, very much have a different kind of focus depending upon what we're looking for, okay? So obviously the easy one that we'll start with today is talking about your AMRAPs, okay? So generally with your AMRAPs, there's three different kinds. You've got like your longer AMRAPs, so say kind of 15 minutes plus. Then you've got your short, kind of more sharp AMRAPs, so kind of in that 6 to 10 minute range. And then you might have like your multiple AMRAPs with rest in between. So maybe like say 3-minute AMRAPs with 60 to 90 seconds rest in between sets. Now obviously all those different types of workouts have a different focus, mainly dependent upon the time duration. Obviously you can play around with the movements as well. So obviously when it's a longer AMRAP, okay, so let's say you're working for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, the biggest thing that you want to think about there is your consistency, okay? So as opposed to sprinting through the first round and finishing it in, a minute and a half, and then getting to the end and the last, say, 5 minutes where you're doing your rounds in 3 minutes, we're looking for every round being, say, 2 minutes, repeatedly, round after round, okay? And when you look at the real kind of top level CrossFit Games athletes, or even, whatever level of competition you're looking at, generally what separates people is on a workout like that is their consistency, okay? Obviously, I'm sure you've probably heard the term first round hero, which is a common thing because obviously it's easy when you're fresh to push hard, all right? But what really matters is your score at the end of the workout, okay? So on a workout like that, like I say, we're looking for your consistency between rounds because what we're obviously looking to develop is your capacity repeatedly doing movements over and over again over a long period of time, okay? So obviously that is going to lead to obviously muscular fatigue, especially if the movements are using similar muscle groups throughout, okay? You're also going to see, if you look at your heart rate chart, a very kind of consistent increase over the course of the workout, okay? So for the first 5 minutes, you might be working around 75 to 80%, and then as the workout begins to take its toll, by the last 5 minutes, you're going to be closer towards that 85% plus. And when you look at your graph, if the movements are all quite taxing or consistent in terms of their level of, in terms of how high they get your heart rate, then you will see a very consistent kind of upwards increase on your heart rate graph. Okay, obviously from there you've got your shorter AMRAPs. So let's just say we're talking about a 10-minute AMRAP. Obviously these are very typical of qualifying workouts for competitions because obviously they're easy to do, easy to judge, easy to put your score into a leaderboard. Obviously with these, it's a little bit different in terms of obviously we still want consistency, okay, but they are, because they're shorter, they are going to be a lot sharper, much more intense, okay? So you don't want to pace your first few rounds to the same degree as you do, say, a 20-minute AMRAP, okay? With these AMRAPs, really what you want to try and do is set off at a pace and then minimize your drop off, okay? Because obviously you've only got 10 minutes, so the extra energy and the overall time you're going to save by being consistent isn't going to be anywhere near the same, all right? And then obviously when you're working over a short period of time, let's say you're comparing scores with someone else on a leaderboard, every rep makes much more of a difference because of the smaller time frame, okay? So let's just say you're doing a 10-minute AMRAP of thrusters, burpees, and assault bike, because everyone knows that I love all three of those movements. You're going to be looking at pushing hard from the start, okay? Inevitably, because you're doing that, there is going to be a drop-off, okay? But you want to try and minimize that drop-off as much as possible, all right? When you look at your heart rate chart for a short AMRAP, you're going to get a much higher spike much quicker, Okay, so let's just say you start your workout, obviously you're warmed up, so your heart rate might be around kind of 60%, 65%, something like that. Okay, you will look, when you look at your graph, you will see that it will suddenly jump from kind of that 60, 65% range all the way into the 80s. And then from there, it tends to just maintain with a little bit of a creep upwards, depending upon the intensity of the movements that you've got in there, okay? So obviously, mentally, that's more challenging, okay? And that's where you really have to be switched on mentally to make the most of these kind of workouts, okay? Because obviously, it's gonna hurt. That's the point, all right? But you have to be able to keep pushing for the duration of that time without letting your pace drop off, which is difficult, okay? So obviously within that, you want to be thinking obviously about how you break in your sets. You also want to be thinking about your transition time, okay? Now transition time is probably the single biggest thing outside of obviously the movements and break-in that slows people down, okay? You can get people who are just as fit as one another on say something like a 2K row where you just keep going the whole time, all right? But when it comes to say a 10-minute AMRAP, the difference between their scores can be something as simple as transition time, okay? Because obviously, as you probably noticed, if you ever filmed yourself doing a workout and watched it back, it's easy to accumulate a lot of time transitioning or resting during a workout, okay? Whether that's walking between equipment, whether that's chalking up your hands, whether that's having a drink, whether that's taking off your t-shirt. There's loads of little places where 5-10 seconds at a time can add up over the course of a workout. And if you would say to watch back in a video of say a qualifying workout over say 10 minutes, you could easily have spent a minute of that time just in transition. Obviously some of that is necessary, but not a lot of it, but dependent upon how long your transition time is, there could be up to 50% of that time which isn't necessary whatsoever, which can obviously make a big difference to your score, okay? And then finally with your AMRAPs, all right, we've got your short interval style AMRAPs, okay? So let's just say, you know, 5 3-minute windows with 90 seconds rest, okay? And obviously these ones, we're looking for a real short burst of intensity because you've got that rest, okay? So on these ones, you don't want to think too much at all, okay? You want to be thinking about fast movement speed, unbroken movements as much as possible, no kind of regard for your own self-preservation, just go for it. You know it's going to hurt, but you know you've got that rest period in between, okay? So these really are the ones where you just want to go, 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 all right? 3 minutes in particular is a time where it is going to start to hurt. Your heart rate is going to shoot up quick, but it should also be like, you know, sustainable pain, if you want to kind of use a new term, because it's only 3 minutes, okay, it's easy to rationalize that to yourself to keep pushing, okay? So obviously we use those to help you prepare for the likes of 10-minute AMRAPs where you are going to have to sustain that pace for a longer period of time, okay? They're your AMRAPs, okay? In the next video, we're going to have a chat about your EMOMs.